Hi everybody, this is a second grader's review, Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. I then took up 3 planks from the floor of the chamber and deposited all between the scantlings. So here are 3 planks. You have wooden floor here in the old man's room. This floor is made of wood. So the speaker, he took out the 3 planks. 1, 2, 3. So he took up the 3 planks from the floor of the chamber, deposit all. All means the body part of the old man. And he deposited all between the scantlings. So here is the ground, and you have the space between the ground and the wood. Ground and floor and scantlings. The space in between here. So the speaker put all the body part of the old man between the scantlings. I then replaced the board so cleverly, so cunningly, that no human eye, not even his, could have detected anything wrong. So the speaker, he replaced all the board, and he did it so cleverly, so cunningly. So cunningly means skillfully, right? He replaced it so skillfully, no human eye, not even the eye of the old man, could have detected anything wrong with the floor. There was nothing to wash out, no stain of any kind, no blood spot whatsoever. So the speaker is quite proud of himself of leaving no stain, no blood spot afterward. I had been too weary for that, so he was too worrying. He was too worrying about leaving the stains behind. So I guess a tub had caught all, haha. So I guess this speaker used a tub, bathtub, He used this bathtub, cutting the old man's body part. He did his job inside here, so there's no stain or blood stain outside the tub. He only needed to remove this tub. When I had made an end of this labor, it was 4 o'clock, still dark as midnight. So he finished his job 4 o'clock a.m. Still dark outside. As the bell sounded the hour, there came a knocking at the street door. So the bell of the clock hit 4 times, signifying that it is 4 o'clock. And suddenly there came a knocking at the street door. So someone knocked on the door at 4 o'clock in the morning. I went down to open it with a light heart. So the speaker is saying that he has a light heart. He feels so light. No, there is nothing to worry about. For what I had now to fear. So, he used to be afraid of the old man's virtual eye, and the virtual eye is gone. Nothing to fear now, so he feels so light. There entered the 3 men, who produced themselves with perfect suavity as officers of the police. So there came 3 gentlemen in front of the door, and these 3 gentlemen introduced themselves as the police officers with perfect suavity. Suavity means perfect elegance. Elegantly they introduced themselves as police officers. They said a shriek had been heard by a neighbor during the night. So a scream, shriek. A scream had been heard by the neighbor during the night. So suspicion of foul play had been aroused. So your neighbor thought that there is something wrong, foul play. Something wrong might happen in your house. Your neighbor is worried. So information had been lodged at the police office. So the information was reported to the police officers, and officers had been deputed to search the premises. So the premise area and the house, old man's house, right? And they were deputed. So they were given a right to do something. So police officers was given a right to search the house of the old man. I smiled, for what I had to fear. There's nothing I need to fear, so I just smiled at the police officers and I bade the gentleman welcome. So, I made them, bade, yes, I made gentlemen welcome. I told them to come in. The Shrek, I said, was my own in a dream. So I told police officers the scream was mine. I screamed while I was having a dream. And the old man I mentioned was absent in the country. And I told the police officers that old man went to the countryside, so he's not here. So, the speaker had to give an excuse why old man is not in the house, because this town is quite small. So all the neighbors, people know who lives where, how many people live in the mansion. So police officers know that there are two people in this house. So the speaker was obliged to explain that reason why there is no old man at the moment. And I took my visitors all over the house. So I showed them in all over my house. I bade them search well. I told them, and I made them search very well, and I led them at length to his chamber. So at last, I led police officers to old man's chamber, old man's room. I showed them his treasures, secure, undisturbed. This old man was quite rich man, had a lot of money and gold. So I showed the treasure, gold and money of the old man was secure, was undisturbed. No one touched it. So I just made sure that it was not a robbery or any kind of thief like happening in this house. And in the enthusiasm of my confidence, I brought chairs into the room and desired them here to rest from their fatigues, while I myself, in the wild audacity of my perfect triumph, placed my own seat upon the very spot beneath which reposed corpse of the victim. So I brought chairs. I brought 3 chairs for police officers, told them to rest here on the chair. And I myself, really quite audacity, quite boldly, I also brought my own chair and put my chair on the very spot that I put the body part of the old man underneath. So the officers, they were satisfied. My manner had convinced them, so I treated them kindly. So my kind manner seemed to convince police officers that I didn't do anything. I was singularly at ease. I felt quite comfortable. They sat, and while I answered cheerily, they chatted of familiar things. So police officers sat and they asked me a question, and I answered quite cheerily. I answered quite merrily. So the police officers have a chatting about daily lives, familiar things, everyday lives. But before year long, I felt myself getting pale and wished them gone. So here, year means before. So when you say year long, it's before long. So it means shortly. Shortly, I felt myself getting pale. So I was getting pale, my face becoming white, and I was becoming nervous. And I wish suddenly that the police officers are gone now. My head ached, and I fancied a ringing in my ears. So suddenly I started to have my headache, and I imagined I heard some kind of ringing sound in my ear. But still, they sat and still chatted. Police officers still sitting, and they were still chatting. The ringing became more distinct. So this sound of ringing became more distinct in my ears. It continued and became more distinct. The sound continued, and the sound became more clear, distinct. I talked more freely to get rid of the feeling. So I know I talked really loudly in order to remove this sound, but it continued and gained definiteness. But the sound continued, and the sound became even more clear, gained definiteness, until at length I found that the noise was not within my ears. Eventually, at length, eventually I found that the noise was not within my ears. It was not in my ears. Sound did not come from my ears. No doubt I now grew very pale. So I became really pale. My face became really white. But I talked more fluently and with a heightened voice. No, I talked louder. I talked with a loud voice to remove this sound. Yet the sound increased, and what could I do? It was a low, dull, quick sound, much such a sound as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. But the sound just only became increasing. It became increased, and the sound was low and quite dull and quick sound, just like the same sound as watches make when the watch is enveloped in the cotton. Watches make low, dull, quick sound, and this one was sound exactly same with low, dull watch sound. I gasped for breath, and yet the office heard it not. So I gasped for breath, means that the speaker was surprised. Speaker was surprised to hear this so loud, strange voice, and he was surprised because police also might hear this sound. But strangely, somehow, these officers heard it not. It seems that the police officers didn't hear anything. It is only nature that police officers didn't hear anything because, in reality, there is no sound, right? This is just imaginary sound of the speaker, our speaker. So the police officer doesn't hear anything. So I talked more quickly, more vehemently. So I talked more violently. But that noise steadily increased. I rose and argued about trifles in a high key and with violent gesticulations. So I talked about more daily life, everyday life, and I spoke more louder voice and more dynamic gesticulations. Gesticulation means gesture. I used more gestures. But the noise increased. Why would they not be gone? Why police are not gone? I paced the floor to and fro, means I walked back and forth with heavy stride, as if excited to fury by the observations of men. But the noise steadily increased. So the speaker was really uh, angry, became quite excited and upset because police officers still here, not going, and the noise just getting bigger and bigger. Oh God, what could I do? I foamed, I raved, I swore. This guy ended up having the foam around his mouth. He's becoming mad, became crazy. I raved. Raved means he acted violently. And I swear, he even cursed. He cursed a bad word. Swore. I swung the chair upon which I had been sitting and grated upon the upon the board. So he was moving around his chair and he smashed the chair. He smashed the chair on the board into the ground, but the noise arose overall and continually increased. This noise only kept on increasing, grew louder, 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 and still the man chatted pleasantly and smiled. Was it possible they heard not? Almighty God, no, no, they heard. They suspected, they knew. They were making mockery of my horror. But in fact, the police officers must have heard the sound. They suspected and they knew everything. So these officers making fun of me, making fun of my horror. This I thought, and this I think. Of course, this police officer didn't hear anything. It's just all idea is going on the speaker's head. It's only his imagination. But anything was better than this agony. Agony is the noise, the sound that keeps on hearing on the speaker's ear. Anything was more tolerable than this derision. Derision also is imagination. Again, the sound, right? Anything is better than this sound. I could bear these hypocritical smiles no longer. I could bear the smile of police officers anymore. I felt that I must scream or die, and now again, hark louder, 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 louder. So he just going really crazy, mad, right, the speaker. And villains, he shrieked. He eventually screamed to police officers, you villains, dissemble me no more. So hide me. I know that you know everything, so don't hide it for me. Don't hide no more. I admit that I did action. I admit that I killed the old man. Tear up the planks. Remove the planks. And here, if you remove the plank, you will be able to find the body part of the old man. It is the beating of this hideous heart. So because of this sound of the old man's heart, the speaker went completely crazy and he confessed all he did about the old man's body. So, there was no this sound of the beating of the hideous heart. I guess he is like guilty. His consciousness made him crazy, drove him crazy. So that's how it ends up, the Telltale Heart. And good job everybody for participating, and thank you for hearing the lecture. Okay, so good job everybody, and I hope to see you next time. Okay, good job. Bye. Bye bye. Thank you.